So I'm not the type of person to just go out and buy LEGO buildings. I mean, frankly, I think the modulars are quite cool, but pretty much every other building is off the list for me. I don't tend to go out and want them. Personally, I'm more into like the LEGO vehicles, like the big cars, the minifig scale cars, and my own mocks such as the Hogwarts Express. So when they announced that they were doing a blacksmith, I wasn't too bothered, but seeing the pictures of it, well, let's just say it changed my mind. Now, like I say, this is my first LEGO building. All the other buildings that I have are more playsets like Privet Drive and the Borrow, stuff like that. And I think one of the main reasons I tend to stay away from buildings and more lean towards cars is scale. I really like the fact when the minifigs scale really well with things like the vehicles that they go in. I know not a lot of people see it that way, and that's fair to them. However, I'm just one of those people that when I see a really small building that this minifig is supposed to live in, it just puts me off of it. But like I say, some of the modulars are on the sort of bigger side, and again, I do think that some of them are, you know, smaller for what they should be. Obviously, it's a product, LEGO have to mass produce it and sell it. I understand that. I'm just not one for LEGO buildings, but this building, the first thing that really took me by surprise is actually the scale of this. Now, pictures really do make this thing look small, and I'm really hoping in the video I'm trying to portray how big this set actually is. It's huge. And it's got 3 layers to just mess around with and pose your minifigs and stuff like that. Even the bedroom has a little bear on the floor, which I thought was really morbid to build, and I'm quite glad that LEGO included that kind of thing. Now, I think we all need to know that this is a sort of fantasy-esque building rather than a accurate building towards the times. They have fantasy in their tags on the website for this, so I'm kind of glad that it's not necessarily historically accurate. In fact, one of the main things that drew me towards this set, as I really don't like Lego Castle and stuff like that, I never grew up with it, I've not got that nostalgia feeling for it, but what I did grow up with was The Legend of Zelda, and this building really reminds me of something that you'd see in games like Ocarina of Time or Breath of the Wild, some of those fantasy-esque open world games that I really think tries to emulate this style. And like I say, that was the biggest draw for me, and I'll get to that more when I talk about the minifigures of this set. Speaking of which, first of all, we have a blacksmith. He comes with a hammer, and I think it's a really cool minifig. I really like the fact that he doesn't have yellow on the top of his torso, meaning that if you're like me and you don't like LEGO minifigures to be yellow, then you can easily swap around the parts here, something that you can't say for the next minifigure. So this is the archer. Now, I'm not saying that you need to get rid of yellow minifigures, but I personally just prefer the ones with the skin tone. And like I say, on this print, it's a phenomenal print, and I really like the dual molded legs in this situation, but swapping around the face and the hands, as she has some yellow at the top of her torso. But other than that, I think this minifigure is great, and I think it's probably my favourite minifigure out of this set. As for the knights, they're pretty much the exact same, apart from their heads and pauldrons. Now, I really do like the fact that they've given them so many weapons in this set. Like, obviously it's a blacksmith, you're going to get that kind of feel, but I really like the fact that you can add their helmets, or you can change their pauldron armor, or you can change their weapons. It's a really good play feature, and I actually am not one for play features, so I like the fact that you can swap and change out minifigures as you please based on what you want your scene to be. But it's like I say before, I didn't grow up with Castle or any other sub-themes like that, so these minifigures, I know they've got the crest on there from one particular theme that I don't know the name of because I don't care. I really think it's nice that LEGO are trying to appeal to nostalgic fans, but unfortunately these kind of characters do feel like an afterthought, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, as for the set itself, damn, I'm so happy with the way that this building looks. I really do like the fact that it's not just a square building, and I know that LEGO are very, very good at building buildings. This one here just feels so different to me, with these wooden beams going from the foundation up to the top of the roof, and the fact that this building still separates into 3 different sections and still having the structural integrity to keep things like these wooden beams steady really does amaze me. I mean, my favorite floor probably has to be the ground floor. I really do like this, as it's like a active working workshop with a anvil in the middle which has some form of red hot ingot on it. It's clearly just come from the forge. I really like that the forge is accessible from this side of the building and it's not just the outside. I also like that you can put the sword and connect it to the forge as if it's like being heated up to get quenched in the oil, which is actually out the front of the house. Listen to me getting excited about play features. Wow, this is a day. And just the overall look of the building, even interior wise, is just amazing to me. But frankly, I don't feel like I'm the best at talking about history of buildings, so I'm gonna pass you over to somebody that does know what they're talking about. Claire, take it away.
Hey guys, let's talk a little bit about the architecture of the new medieval blacksmith. So medieval or Middle Ages had a huge span of time, and at the end of it in England there was this style called English Tudor, and what characterized it as its own style was the steeped roofs, which you can see here, the dormer windows, which were kind of these built out extensions of the roof with smaller diamond-shaped windows in them that were held by lead casing. So those gold pieces are pretty cool and actually pretty accurate to kind of represent that metal casing of the window. And then the way that the buildings were made up, the bottom floor was this masonry heavy brick, which is quite literally the bricks that they used. And that's where the forge is, and that makes sense because that's where the hearth of the home is. But then on the top levels, it was made out of wood or timber construction. And then what would insulate it and keep it relatively waterproof would be this lattice mesh that would be created and then filled with like dung and brick and all sorts of clay and different materials to essentially not only insulate the house, but keep it watertight. And that was also held in place by the wood pieces, and it was also decorative. And so that's what those wood tiles are also doing. So it's pretty cool. There was poop in the buildings, like dung, but you know, at the time everybody used every single piece. And honestly, I actually think even though the tile on the roof is a little bit out of scale for the proportions of the building, it's actually pretty accurate and an awesome building. It reminds me of a lot of the cool medieval towns that you can visit in Europe, like Bergerac and whatnot. The only thing that's a little bit off kilter, as you could say, no pun intended, you'll see what I mean, is that it's really orthogonal and straight. And if you look at any kind of images of medieval towns, all the buildings were kind of leaning on top of each other and are failing, and anything that's still remaining is absolutely not standing up this straight. If you want some more weird information about medieval times, head over to my review on my channel, The Plastic Architect.
And you guys totally should. She is way more qualified to talk about buildings than I certainly am. I just find it very interesting that I'm not the type of person to go out and buy a building, and I saw this set and immediately had to buy it. As for some of the negatives about this set, and I know a lot of you guys will be turning your eyes to that tree as of now, but like I say, I don't mind trees in LEGO sets so long as they make sense. And the tree in this set, not only does it make sense, but it actually looks really, really cool with a target on the back. I wish that we had some sort of play feature where this had like the stud in the middle so we could actually put like an arrow in it. But other than that, I have absolutely nothing wrong with this tree. Obviously, one of the main negatives of this set, I actually think is something that LEGO drive home about, and it's their light brick. I really don't think their light brick is very good. It's the same with power functions these days. I really think they need to update a lot of it. I think the light brick is way too bright for this situation, and I would have preferred a nice orange soft glow than a really bright red brick. Love the anvil out front as well, and I think when you have the light brick on, it really ruins this effect, especially when it's trying to enhance the experience and the playability of this set, even the displayability of this set. I definitely think it's one of those situations that really does require things like a light brick, and I'm glad they included one. And it's the same with Hagrid's hut, and I said this in a previous video. LEGO really like to use light bricks for things like fire, so having a light brick that can toggle would really, really make this effect nicer, not only being able to have it on all the time or when you're playing with it, and potentially being able to make a flicker effect within the brick so you can actually use it as things like fire. I don't know, just something to think about, LEGO. Another letdown that I have is unfortunately this horse and carriage. Really, at that point, all you wanted to do was just look at the blacksmith, and I really didn't care about building the carriage. But on the positive side, I do like the new horse, and I wish we had had more horses and maybe a stables instead of this carriage, or maybe had some sort of brick-built solution to have the horses carry the swords rather than have this big carriage that actually hauls them around. But overall, what do I think of this set? Now, this set is a phenomenal set. I am really, really happy with the purchase that I've made here. I really like the fact that it's not built on a base plate and it's built on plates, which means that things like the scenery that you build around it aren't going to be like offset by half a plate because base plates are weird sizes. I really like the fact that LEGO went with the castle type style building rather than making something like a modern blacksmith and then putting it in like the modular line. I really like this idea of LEGO bringing back older style buildings, and not only do they look good in things like MOCs, like Legend of Zelda MOCs like I've already said, but also things like Minecraft builds, because this is the type of buildings that people would build in Minecraft. So I think this is again one of those ideas that you can really take outside of just the LEGO castle. It's a really cool just medieval buildings. I'm not sure how well it will look in something like a city, but I'm really, really glad that LEGO have introduced this kind of thing, and hopefully we'll stick with it. I really don't want to see this be the last oldie worldy medieval type building. I would love to make like a village or a model railway or something along these lines that this building would sit right at home in, and I think that is probably the route that I would go instead of building a LEGO city. That way most of it can be custom, which I would personally like. That way if I bought modulars and stuff, I would display them as modulars rather than including them in a city. But that's my thoughts. What do you guys think of the blacksmith? I would greatly appreciate you guys giving me some feedback on this video in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions on the set and the video. Thank you so much to Claire for helping me out with this video. Like I said before, she's way more knowledgeable on buildings, and she has some really, really informative videos on things like modulars, going into the architecture of the buildings and where the buildings originally came from and what the LEGO designers might have been thinking about when designing the sets. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can go down to the description below or wait to the end card of this video and go and subscribe to her channel. Thanks so much for watching to the end of this video, guys. Make sure you comment below that you got to the end. I just want to thank all the members that have become members on this channel. You guys really, really helped me determine what sets I'm going to get and have helped fund videos like this one. So thanks for helping me out in that regard. If you guys are interested in becoming a member and getting your name on screen like these guys, please consider hitting that join button next to the subscribe button below. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and the bell notifications, and I will speak to you in the next video. Goodbye.